What's up, guys? Welcome to one of our FBA Rockstars live hangouts. I'm super excited to be bringing these back. I took a few months off with my personal schedule getting crazy. It was Tuesday nights we were doing these. I'm going to start slowly implementing these back in. I can't say it's going to be every week. It's just going to be kind of as my schedule allows for it. But I think what would be really awesome is if we can get more actual success stories from you guys, right? We just hit 8,000 people inside the Rockstars group, which is incredibly fast. I started that thing back in December. So it's only been 7 full months. And over 1,000 people a month is just insane. So I want to start bringing on some success stories from real people. You know, we always hear about the big dogs, right? The 6-figure plus earners, and they share their stories. But it's always so inspirational. As great as those are, I know for me, I connect best with the current underdogs, people who are in the grind, in the trenches, right there putting in that work. So I'm super excited to bring on my man, Jessie Switzer, who's going to be sharing his, I'm calling it the $20 story. Started with $20 4 years ago. I did a post a while back and I said, hey guys, I'm looking for success stories. And Jessie reached out and said, hey dude, I started with $20 and look where I'm at now. So I figured I'd bring him on here. Anyways, him and I are going to kind of go back and forth a little bit. At the end of this, we are going to do Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout this talk, I want you guys to drop it inside of the chat, which I forgot to open up. There we go. So if you click on the chat button, if you're on your phone, I don't use the app version, so I don't know exactly where it's at. Jessie, I know you're on your phone. Don't worry about the chat. I'll take care of that for you. And I have it open, so if you guys have questions, drop your questions in the chat. We'll get to those at the end. And aside from that, let's kick this off. So give us a quick intro about yourself. Who are you? Who's Jessie? What's your life look like?
All right, Chaz, I just want to thank you for having me on. I feel very privileged to be, have this opportunity tonight to talk to everybody. Like you mentioned briefly in the intro, I think it's really important to hear people who aren't at the top, the people who, are struggling, the people who have struggled, because everybody starts somewhere and not everybody needs to be at the top. Like for myself, I don't feel like that's something I ever really want to achieve. Of course, I always want to make more money. I always want to get better at what I do. But for me, it was never about making 6 figures a year. It's still not about that. It's just about making a living, not having a boss, enjoying what you do, and putting in the grind. It's enjoyable, or as unenjoyable as it might seem for some people. Putting in the grind ends up becoming something you love about this. Doing Amazon stuff, it's been something that's taken my life to the next level for sure. Like you mentioned, I've been doing this for 4 years. Started selling back in September of 2012. So far, up until this maybe a week and a half ago, it's been all merge and fulfilled stuff. I've been doing everything myself. FBA was something I've always kind of knew it was there, but I didn't really know how to find the info I needed to jump into things. It seemed very intimidating to me, sending all my info to Amazon, worrying about fees, worrying about customer service, wondering how Amazon would handle it. The last 2 years have exclusively been only Amazon. I started out 4 years ago, Amazon, eBay. Actually, I didn't know you could sell. I didn't know you could sell on Amazon. 4 years ago, when I started with $20 at a flea market, I only knew of eBay. So I bought a few video games. Video games are just something I've always really enjoyed growing up. I'm actually only 28 years old. So 4 years ago, I was 24 years old. Just trying to relive my youth, grabbing onto whatever I could from, my younger days. And I realized the value in these old video games. And since then, 4 years ago, the video game market has gone out of control. It was a nice niche to be in for the few years I was doing it. But now it's so competitive, so hard to find the games. Everybody's asking for them at garage sales. And that's another thing. I've only really ever sourced from garage sales, thrift stores, and flea markets. One time probably 2013, I found a really good deal at a Best Buy on these sealed Nintendo Wii games that were going out of print. And I grabbed a few of those. But other than that, I've never done any retail arbitrage. I've never done any online arbitrage. It's all been sourced from garage sales, flea markets, and a little bit of thrift stores. So I know you guys are all here to hear my story, and it's a $20 story, as Chaz put it. Mm-hmm. I started with $20. I had the last $20. I was on unemployment at the time in 2012. So I had $20, the last $20 from unemployment. I was at the flea market. Didn't really know what direction I was taking with my life. Like I said, I had kind of figured out that these video games were worth some money. And I came across a guy selling, and maybe he had like 20 games at the time. He wanted $20 for all of them, which was great at the time, $1 a game. But I just knew that if I bought all of the games, that would be my last $20. I knew that I had to keep some of that money, and if I wanted to sell these on eBay, which was my plan at the time. So I only picked up maybe 3 or 4 games from them, games that I knew had some value. I took a chance on a couple others. Brought them home, listed them on eBay. That $20 turned into $50 next week. At the time, I was just going to like the dollar store and getting materials to ship the packages, paying for postage. So I barely cut it with the $20. And then I had to wait 5 days for that money to get from my PayPal into my bank account so I could actually use the money. I think I maybe went back to the flea market 2 weeks later. A guy still had all the games. No one was buying them at the time. So I had $50 this time. I bought the rest of the games from him, I think, for $10 because he hadn't sold them for 2 weeks. And then that $50 turned to $100, that $100 into $200, and it kept going from there. Like I said, I've always my niche has always been video games, so I've kind of stayed in that realm. There's been some collectible items that I've found that are kind of valuable here or there, things I've been able to look up on my phone. 4 years ago, I had a very slow phone using like a really slow web browser. Now everybody's spoiled with the Amazon seller app. You just scan whatever you want and figure out the value instantly. But getting back to that $20, it just felt really good to continually capitalize on what at that time to me felt like free money sitting there at the flea market, that I was able to make money. I was able to give myself money, not have to listen to a boss tell me what to do. I'm from like a really isolated resort area in the Poconos of Pennsylvania. So any work around here is like really hard to get a decent job. And if you do, it's usually something that's seasonal. So it only lasts a few months out of the year. So it felt really nice to be able to be making some income for myself. I was giving myself like a new life. And I was also giving these items a new life because at the time I was going through like a pretty big change. I had recently become vegan, started eating plant-based diet. And it allowed me to like have a really open mind about things because up to that point, I really was kind of closed-minded as an individual. But most people in this group are going to be open-minded people. That's how you find this this lifestyle and this type of profession. So not only was I giving myself a new life, these items, I was refurbishing them, cleaning them up, and giving them back to people who were enjoying them instead of them sitting in an attic or someone's basement. That first year, Q4, I was able to make $12,000 doing this. Starting in roughly June, I was selling on eBay, and then probably by September, I was up like fully on Amazon and started understanding that you didn't have to sell your item for the lowest price. You didn't have to match the lowest price or sell it less than that. So items that I sold for like $12, games I've sold for $12. This past Christmas, I'm selling them for $40, $50 because I'm putting a lot of work into them, cleaning them up nice for people, and people really appreciate that. I didn't see that at first, so there's a lot of money I lost, but that was kind of part of the learning curve. You have to, teach yourself what's going on, the business model that you want. And a lot of people in the group, like I'm gonna keep saying spoiled, but we have all this information right in front of us, and all these other people who've experienced it now. It's so easy to do this type of work with all the people out there. And you don't have to do exactly what somebody else is doing. You can do what you want to do and just see how other people handle situations and kind of form your own, but you're never going to really truly understand it until you do it yourself and figure out what works for you. Did I miss anything, Chaz? I don't know if I covered everything. I tried to.
You nailed it.
I could.
Yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned that. Is one of the things that bugs me most is when somebody asks a question, whether it be inside the group, privately, whatever, when somebody asks a question and they get bombarded with people saying, you need to do it this way, you need to do it this way, there's no right there's several wrong ways, but there's no one right way, right? You've been through that. There's so many different business models within this whole thing. So I love the fact that you touch base on that. As far as your story, it's just, you went in with your last dime, your last $20. That's what I'm talking about when I tell people, like, you need to go all in with something. You can't be half pregnant, right? This is something Gary Vee told us on stage a few weeks back in Dallas. He said, you can't go in half pregnant, right? You're either pregnant or you're not. It's the same thing with business, right? If you want to go all in with something, you can't say, well, I have $20, so I'm going to spend $5 and just try it out. No, you got to go all in to make that happen. That's the difference between treating your business like a business or treating it like a hobby. Something I learned in my other business as a health coach was if you treat it like a hobby, it will pay like a hobby. If you treat it like a business, it's going to pay like a business. But there is a huge difference. They're on two totally different spectrums. Treating something like a hobby versus a business, that's a totally different topic and call. I can go on a tangent for hours about. But back on you, my friend. So you went in with $20. I love the fact that you mentioned video games. You'll appreciate, I pointed this out a little bit ago, you'll appreciate this post I'm going to do later. I scored 40 games for $1 a piece. Found a PS2 Yu-Gi-Oh! Some other good ones in there. You'll appreciate those. So I'm going to post about that later. So you go in with $20. You kind of find your niche. How did you make the conversion from eBay over to FBA? When did you first hear about it? Kind of how did you get into the merchant field?
What was the way to go? It's so long ago that I don't really remember. I just remembered, I don't know. It's just like I've constantly always done research on what I'm doing and figuring out if it's the best thing I'm doing. A lot of times I don't jump into stuff because I want to figure out exactly what to expect, which is why I've put off like FBA so long until just recently. I've been doing merchant fulfilled for years, but FBA has just always seemed really intimidating to me. But I found your videos probably a few months ago, and that helped with FBA. I don't really remember how I first found out about Amazon, but I basically realized that a lot of people on Amazon had no pictures on their listings. Their descriptions were very basic, and I was already putting in the effort to put really good descriptions in on eBay, take excellent photos, and I wasn't getting anything back for the game. So I was putting in like so much work and barely getting anything back for it. And when I realized how people on Amazon were putting in way less work than me and they were charging higher prices, I was just like immediately said, okay, I'm going to Amazon. And I've never looked back. Like there's stuff that I get stuck with that I can't really push off on Amazon, and you got to find another outlet, and it's usually eBay, sometimes local stuff like Craigslist, but eBay usually covers most things for me.
Nice. I've seen a lot of people inside of the group mention that exact same thing where they are only merchant filled and they want to get into FBA world, but again, that fear or that intimidation. So to those who are doing mostly merchant filled, what advice would you give to them now that you've made the jump, right? You've taken the leap of faith. So now that you're on the other side, you see how awesome it is. What would you say to the person watching this right now that is maybe doing merchant filled? They want to look into FBA, but they're a little hesitant because you think that there's a little bit of higher fees and all that kind of stuff. What would you say to those guys?
Just get into it immediately. Do the research just whenever you can. When you're on the bus going to work, when you're eating dinner, whatever it takes, watch videos, read, find out. It's so much easier. Like I'm still doing merchant fulfilled because I have a huge inventory. It's just impossible for me to convert everything and send it over and adjust the prices. Because the way I deal with it, I have very unique items. They're collectible items. You don't just sell them like you get 10 of the same item and sell it new and just send it to Amazon. Don't worry about it. These items are pretty specific. They all have specific listing descriptions. And when it comes to price, you're going to have a different price when it's FBA. When there's prime shipping, everything changes. The whole ball game changes. But yeah, the advice I have is just do whatever it takes. Now that I'm doing it, it's so nice to not have to fill orders every day. I'm still doing it with my merchant fulfilled stuff, but to have half of that being FBA and just completely out of my hands is amazing. So just do whatever it takes to get the info you need to jump in.
Love it. I think I've done maybe 4 merchant filled my entire 7 months. I hated all 4 of them. Honestly, I did. If they weren't super high priced items that I wanted out of my house quick, I would not have done them. So along your journey,
I don't really know how I've put up with it this long, man. Now that I have FBA at my disposal, it's crazy to think that every day I'm sending out, at least 4 or 5 packages, and then during Q4 I'm sending out 30 packages a day. It's ridiculous to think that I'm doing all that myself. So
yeah. And here's the best part about FBA: it's like you can just swipe your phone, like, oh, something just shipped out, cool, done. That's my favorite part about it. Plus, we get discounted UPS shipping, which is pretty sweet. Throughout your journey, I'm sure that everything was just super easy and you had no failures or mistakes. You just kind of like rocked the whole thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, not at all.
Share with us if you can think of a specific failure or mistake or tips that you can give out based around the failure scenario. I know a lot of people don't even start FBA because of that fear. Not coming over for merchant, but I'm talking like they're stuck in research phase. They haven't made an account or anything like that because they're afraid of that failure. So what I try to teach people is you can't be afraid of it because failure is part of success. So do you have any thoughts or specific ones you can think of in your case?
Just what I basically touched on is probably the most important that I realized was don't undervalue yourself or the potential for your items. Don't just race to the bottom like everybody does just to get something out of your hands. There's a time for that. There's a time to clear your inventory when you need it gone. You can't, it's causing you a loss. But do not rush into it. Do not think that you have to be the lowest price. Do not think that you don't need to see the numbers immediately. Some people are going to get into this and they're going to be making a couple grand a week immediately because they know what they're doing or they have some type of idea of how to run a business. But for those getting into it that are really unfamiliar or don't have much capital to invest at first, just give it some time. Don't think that you're a failure. Don't think that everything's going wrong. You're going to learn the system as you go through things, as you experience what it takes to run an e-commerce business. So just hang in there and give it a shot. That's probably the biggest tip that I would have, or like the biggest failure that I had is I undervalued a lot of things. And another failure would be just not doing FBA soon enough. Like that is key. Like do FBA. If you're doing merchant fulfilled now and you haven't done FBA, do it. And if you're just getting into it, I mean, starting merchant fulfilled is a good way to learn the system. So I can't really speak from that standpoint of jumping straight into FBA like a lot of you guys have. Yeah, I don't know. And just be prepared for Q4. You can never be prepared enough for Q4. So the first year I thought it was amazing. And then the next year came and I still wasn't prepared enough. I killed it the second year, but not even until last year did I feel like I really was prepared for it and really did what I wanted to do. So Q4, yeah, that's probably the biggest failure. Be prepared for Q4. Definitely a good tip.
No, that's a great one. I mean, that's one I can write down because I started this whole thing. My first shipment went out November 18th, and then I did my first pallet right before Christmas. So of course, everything in my pallet sold. That's when I did that bulk video that everyone came into the group with. But I think it's so funny that I look at them like, yeah, Q4 was awesome. And I know this year I'm in your position on year 2 where this is going to be my first legit Q4 and I have no idea what's coming my way. It's like, I just shove the system with everything I possibly can. Yeah. So it's Q4 is going to be a learning experience. I'm just kind of going through the comments here. Looks like we have a few questions coming through. First one was, looks like Angela answered it. Are you from Philly?
I am from Philly. I'm not from Philly, but that's where I started my business. I started my business in Philadelphia. I've moved
Nice.
back to the Poconos since then. So I was raised in the Poconos almost my whole year. As soon as I jumped into like this type of profession, I moved to Philadelphia immediately because I realized the potential. Because I was just doing, like I said, garage sales and flea markets at the time, and I was kind of limited in the Poconos area. Not many people are doing garage sales, and if they do, you got to drive like 10 miles to a sale. Where in Philadelphia, there's people everywhere. It just makes sense,
Nice.
from a geological standpoint.
And then question number 2, are you finding success with collectible video games? I've seen a lot of horror stories where FBA warehouses ruin them.
I haven't sent any video games into FBA. That's probably something I should have mentioned. I was hesitant to do that because of that, fearing that the collectible games would be not handled well or have problems with customer service. So I kind of took a new perspective after learning from the group, becoming a member of the group, and just seeing what everybody else was doing. It allowed me to see things from a different perspective. So I went to garage sales and started looking for different types of items other than video games. That's probably another one of my failures that I should have mentioned, is just being stuck in my niche and not reaching out and not trying to do other things or not being aware of other things. I've always been aware of like collectible board games and action figures and stuff like that, but not like, I think the Amazon seller app, I don't really know when that came around where you could scan stuff. I just found out about it when I joined your group after I saw your bulk pallet video and led me to the group.
You were eyeballing this stuff.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It was just like whatever you could search on your phone in the web browser, Amazon web browser. So I didn't know about the seller app, but that's opened up like a huge avenue of stuff for me. So don't limit yourself. Again, I think that's probably another tip that I have based on failure. Don't just think you got to do only private label, or you got to only do retail arbitrage, or you have to get to this level where you're doing private label. Whatever works for you, that's like the most important thing. And figure out how to always improve yourself, of course, but don't set your goals based on what somebody else is achieving, for sure.
Dude, I love that. Like, seriously, there's so many people, and I especially like, half of me does not want to post the Sunday sales posts that we all do, but the other half wants to keep doing it, because for me, when I first started as a newbie, you're probably the same. Well, obviously you've been this way longer than I have, but when you see other people's numbers, it's always inspiring, right? I take it as a motivation. Like, some people I look at, I'm like, yeah, I want to get to that goal. Or other people, I'm looking at somebody who's in this with me, I'm like, oh, sweet, they kicked ass this week. Like, celebrate them. But on the flip side, myself included, it's easy to look at someone else's number. Let's say somebody, a big timer, is doing private label and they post this huge sales number for the week. It's so easy to instantly go, oh, well, I suck at life. Maybe I should do private label so I can do that too, right? Private label might not be for you. Just like Jessie said, you have to open up your avenues, try everything out. That's what I tell people is do RA for a while, do OA for a while, try private label, try wholesale, try pallets, try it all. Find what works best for you. So I love that you pointed that out. So with the questions, we're going to basically roll into Q&A. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, it could be about Jessie's story in particular, a little bit more specific if you want. It could be about FBA in general. We could both touch base on stuff. So go ahead and drop those in the chat. I think we did see one other one. Looks like another Jessie mentioned, I agree about not letting fear of failure stop you or slow you down. But what about all of the horror stories about how easily you can get your account suspended? That's a scary thought for those hoping to have FBA as an income stream for long term. Any thoughts on that?
I don't live by fear. I live by love. I do what I love. I let love motivate all my choices. Like, everything comes down to a choice in the moment. You could either let fear take over, or you can let love take over. And love is what you're passionate about, what you want out of the situation, what you're going to strive to until you achieve it. I don't really let fear come in. I've never really had a problem where I've thought my account will get suspended, but if you live with that idea, then you'll never get started, or you'll let it hold you back. So I just really don't let that come into my mind.
Love it. I'm kind of on the flip side of that, where I did live in fear for a while. It's a story I haven't. What's up, Mike?
What's up, guys?
Quick shout out to my boy Mike, who's also down 20 pounds. Freaking killing it, man. Proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyways, that's another business we're talking about. So anyways, my side story, again, I'm going to do a big update video and share all kinds of failures with you guys, but I could touch base on that based on the fact that I was there. So I must have been maybe less than 2 months into this thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we have this little thing that you should probably pay attention to where it's your performance percentage. And so I kept hearing everyone say, you know, if you're above 95, that's like excellent, right? They want above 95. I'm like, I've got to be above 95. Check it. And all of a sudden I'm like, what's this 89 thing? I literally had the shit scared out of me for about 3 weeks. And I started to dive in. And if your performance rating, click on performance and account health, you'll see it pop up there. Pay attention to that thing. So my tip is, if it is poor, you see it going down, because I got to the point where I was checking it several times a day, and I found out it updates once a day is what I found out. So I'd check it every single morning for like 3 weeks straight. And I literally was living with just this gut-wrenching feeling every single day, because I did let the fear of my account getting suspended control my life. I actually got to the point where it's like, I don't want to send anything in, because if I get another customer return, I'm out, right? Amazon's going to kick me off. So what I did was, I looked at all my returns. I looked at all the statistics, the data, because I tell you your percentages of what you suck at right there. And so I looked at those and I started asking myself, what can I do better? How can I improve this thing? So I stopped sending in used electronics as far as the ones I didn't fully test. Guys, here's my big tip of the day. If you do electronics, used electronics, you can't just plug it in, see a light come on and say, oh, it works. I had a customer return that was I got this thing for, I think it was $3 of a handheld video recorder, an old school one. I put batteries in the thing. It worked. It turned on. I sent it in, sold it for $180, and I get an email saying, hey, the rewind button doesn't work. I stopped doing that crap. That was a big turning point in my business. Was I made sure I quality checked every single thing. I paid attention to my reviews. I got the negative ones removed. If you don't know how to do it, check out my YouTube channel. I have a full video step-by-step on how to remove a negative review. Those reviews will crush your account. So if you do see a negative one, if you're FBA, 99% of the time, unless you send in junk, 99% of the time, Amazon's going to remove it, no problem. So that's my tip is, you can't, just like Jessie said, you can't let the fear slow you down. I did it for 3 weeks. It was probably the worst 3 weeks of my FBA career, just because I lived in a state of fear for those 3 weeks. And one day I just decided, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to focus on being the best seller possible and quality check every single item. And if I get returns, I get returns. It's part of the business. Now that I fully understand it, you're going to get returns. It happens. Suck it up, move on. You just provide the best quality stuff that you can, become the best quality seller that you can, and you're going to be fine, right? If you have any fear, reach out to Amazon. I actually did this. I reached out to Amazon and said, hey, I must have got back up to like 91% after working at it for a few weeks. And I called them up. I said, look, my performance is at 91%. I want to be the best seller I can be. How can I get back to 95? And they just gave me a few little, well, just make sure that you're trying to limit your returns, make sure you're checking all your stuff, blah, 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 blah. And they thanked me for reaching out, because no one does that, right? That's like calling and ratting yourself up saying, hey, I messed up a little bit. So that's my little take on it. Next question is, looks like we have, any pallets similar to bulk? I love bulk, but find it recently slowed down. Jessie, have you messed around with pallets at all?
No. Okay. I saw your initial pallet video and was like, wow, this is something I need to do. And then as I did more research, I started seeing like not all it's hyped up to be. Yeah. So I kind of kept my distance.
Exactly. So pallets, as far as specific locations, bulk.com, you guys have all seen my videos. I did great with bulk back then because they were a new company and they did not have as many sellers as they do now go into them. Half of me thinks it's because of my video that it's now saturated, because it has 40,000 views on it. So I don't know if that was partly my fault or not, but it did get saturated. I no longer, I haven't even checked that website in 2 months. But as far as other pallet spots, your best bet is to find a local place if the pallet game is something you want to do. So what you do is go to Google. It's this amazing website that you can get 99.9% of your questions answered. Go to google.com and you're going to type in different words like liquidation, surplus, overstock, look up a thesaurus, right? Come up with different words based around that. And then type in your city or your state. And it's not going to pop. Guys, here's the thing with Google. So many people will Google a question and look at the first 2 links and be like, oh, the answer's not there. And I can't find it. You need to do some research, right? When we say research, this doesn't mean just look at the first link, right? You could probably just do this. Anytime you Google something, just skip the first 5. Dive into those pages, guys. Get deep with it. Some of those answers are going to be on page 3, 4, 5, right? That's what research means, is diving in and taking control of it and finding it. So with pallets, I recommend getting a local source. I have a personal thing against ordering from out of state now, just because I got reamed with shipping fees on 11 pallet load that we did. It was $3,000 for the products, which was like $250 per item, which we could have made a killing on, except for when the invoice came in. And this was one of my failures, and I paid it, was $3,000 for shipping. So all of a sudden I doubled my buy cost, right? So yeah, we barely broke even on that load. So if you do order from out of state, make sure you get the best shipping possible. There's freight companies you can call up or go online and get quotes from and put in how much the pallet weighs and all that kind of stuff. But as far as specific websites, guys, there's 1,000 out there. Just go to Google and type in liquidation or pallet, overstock, surplus, all those different keywords. And just type that stuff in and go to town, right? Research. I'm here to teach you how to fish. I don't want to keep giving you all the fish that you want, right? I'm here to provide free value. Jessie's here to help you provide free value. That's what we're about. But you have to learn how to pick up the pole and go throw that bad boy in there and pick up your own fish eventually. So Jessie, you haven't done pallets, but do you have any other say on that?
No, I mean, the only reason I haven't gotten to pallets because I'm like flooded with inventory because I've been doing everything merchant fulfilled. So just handling my inventory has been a pain. I've been kind of putting off doing any other type of sourcing. I don't really need to at this point. I've kind of built myself a nice little, I know I could open up like a physical brick and mortar store with all the stuff that I have. It's just crazy the amount of like sourcing that I've put in through garage sales.
Nice. So do you have a garage, a warehouse? Where are you storing all this stuff at?
I have a basement. It's really just like five shelves of video games, which there's before Q4 last year, there was 2,500 games.
Oh, nice.
Of all different systems. I think it's down to like around 2,000 now after Q4. I had like over 100 of the systems, down to about like 20 or 30 now. And just like hundreds of controllers and totes that I haven't even got the chance to test all of them. I like you said, the failure of not testing stuff or having one tiny little thing being inaccurate or flawed. So I'm very particular with all that and make sure I test everything to the gills, in and out. Just like double test it if you need to. If you have any suspicion that you missed something, it's always good to double check for sure.
So question. In all seriousness, when you test the controllers, like how long are you playing? Like how many levels?
When you test the controller,
are you playing the actual game and just going to town on it for like an hour? Like, yep, this works. Let's do another one.
Well, there's specific games that I know you can use all the buttons on. Like some games you can't use specific buttons, so I know which games you need for each unit, each system to be able to test all the buttons. But yeah, sometimes you just get lost in what you're doing. You gotta enjoy yourself.
Research and development.
That's why I got into all this, because I love the game. So you got to have a little bit of fun with what you're doing, or it's not going to be fun. You're not going to enjoy it. So
absolutely. Next one is, I will say one extra thing about pallets. If you do pallets, because Kyle commented and said pallets are a ball of fun. I 100% agree with that. I love the pallet grind. I love being out here at 2 a.m. just covered with more stuff I know what to do with. I love the fact that you can get a big box of a lot of stuff for a minimal amount of money and time. But I will say this, if you get into the pallet world, you have to accept the fact that you are not going to be able to FBA all of it. You're probably not going to be able to FBA 30% of it. Based on the pallets that I've done several by now. Based on the pallets I've done, I send in anywhere from 25 to 30% of the pallets were FBA eligible in my mind, which means great condition, little to no box damage, and I was able to send it in. You need to have backup sources. So eBay, OfferUp, what's the other one I haven't used? It's called like Mercury. You know which one I'm talking about?
Mercari?
Mercari.
I don't pronounce it.
Yeah, some type of
I saw a YouTube video recently.
Okay, yeah, so that's another one. Craigslist, your local Facebook buy-sell trade groups. You need to have backup plan. I think too many people buy pallets. Again, it might be partly my fault because my videos I put up in the beginning, I was excited. Don't bash me for that. I think too many people purchase a pallet and like, yeah, there's 150 units of this item. I'm going to FBA all of them. And then it gets here and they're pissed because half of it's box damage. That's part of the grind. You have to really just set your expectation to that. Host garage sales. Yes, I love that Kyle said that. We hosted a garage sale to get rid of some of our merchandise. Dude, we made $2,500 in less than 2 days in a garage sale on excess inventory from pallets. It's totally doable. So if you get into the pallet grind, yes, it's fun, but you have to have a lot of outlets. If you're only FBA, like right now, my wife and I, she hates it when I do this. Say hi.
I really do. Hi.
You're on the live call.
Awesome.
She's used to the YouTube videos where it's like, it feels like nobody's watching, right? But now you got live call. Yeah, so with pallets, you have to have a lot of outlets. We focus just on FBA. I hate eBay with a passion because what Jessie mentioned, once you go FBA, you realize how easy it is in a sense. Like you don't package and ship stuff off yourself, and it's awesome. So we're only focused on that. So that's why I'm not doing pallets right now because I don't want to do garage sales. I'm burnt out on Craigslist. I don't want to do all the extra stuff. I just want to do FBA. So that's my last thing I would give you guys with pallets is if you do them, if you want to get into them, there's nothing wrong with it. Just do your research, run the manifest, do not get unmanifested. That was another big failure. Do your research and you need to make sure you have outlets to sell this stuff on. What do you do with all of your broken controllers? Do you take them apart and fix them? I have a bucket that just sits here.
I do not fix them. It's just not worth the time that you put into it to try to get something to work. And if you figure out you can't get it to work, then it was wasted time. There's not much value in, to me, spending an hour, half hour trying to troubleshoot a controller when you can just move. And at least in my position, you can move to the next one. I have totes of controllers. I've sourced so much that it's not really worth it for me to try to fix something for a half hour where I could just test another one and get it listed and get it ready, to send out to somebody. So I have a tote full of controllers that are broken that I've tried to dabble and figure out if I could fix them and learn that I really can't. So now anytime I come across one, it just goes in a tote. I'll likely be trying to lock them all off on eBay at some point or locally or something just to get rid of them and let somebody else deal with them if they want to do it that way.
Nice. My question for you is, I'm just now getting into kind of the video game grind. So for the people who see video game stuff, like I've been in my Goodwills a couple times and I've posted pictures of like, the Guitar Hero guitars and this kind of stuff where I'm clueless. And at the time I didn't feel like researching too much. So do you have, let's say, controllers? What is your average buy cost for a controller and how much do you averagely flip it for?
Okay.
I'm sure that ranges.
In the past, like when
system.
Yeah. But in the past, when I've valued lots that I'm buying from somebody at a garage sale, it's usually not, you don't just usually buy one controller from somebody. Sometimes that happens, and if it's like $1 or $2, you might want to pick it up if you can get $20, $30 for it. It's amazing ROI. But usually you're buying in like a bulk lot. You're buying 10 games in a system and 2 or 3 controllers or something. And usually I just try to value the controllers. I don't even try to value the controllers. I try to find value in the system and in the games, and anything the controllers are worth is going to be extra, because a lot of times you will find that there's going to be problems with them. Like the PlayStation 2 controllers, I've run into those all the time. They're always problematic. The old Nintendo 64 controllers, the joysticks get destroyed on them. Also, the Nintendo GameCube ones get destroyed. So I'm looking at spending like pennies for them, maybe a couple dollars if I'm like really reaching and I haven't found anything sourcing that day. And then usually I put effort into them. I put a lot of work into them. I don't sell controllers that are beat up or that, don't work as well as you want them to. I sell like top of the line controllers. I usually source parts from other controllers to make the controller as pristine as it can be, give it a nice shell, because you can interchange all the parts and stuff. So I'm usually selling like GameCube controllers for $25, $35. Nintendo 64 controllers, the same thing, because those controllers are not being manufactured anymore. Actually, the GameCube controllers, they did remanufacture them for the new Wii systems, because some of the new games use those old controllers. But there's a lot of value there, because people want a pristine controller, a nice looking one that's going to function well. So I just put the time and effort into making them as nice as you can, instead of just flipping it for $15. I put work into it, put a lot of time into it, and you can reach for the stars. I've gotten up to probably $50 for a used controller, like a specific color, a harder to find color, a collectible one or something like that. So sky's the limit. You got to play with it and figure out what works for you, how much time you want to invest in each controller, and then what return you're expecting. But for me, I reach for the stars. That's probably why I have a bunch of them still lying around, because I'm not trying to just, I see the value in them. I see that people appreciate when you clean them up, so they don't have to do it when they get it and whatnot.
Awesome. It's funny you mentioned that. I have a list of videos I want to do for the channel. One of them is paying attention to detail. So I love the fact that you just said that. So speaking of time, Rosetta asks, how many hours a day do you devote to FBA? I guess for you it'd be e-commerce in general, because are you still doing eBay part-time?
I do eBay occasionally, but it's usually like stack up a bunch of stuff in a box. And when I get enough stuff that it's worth me to keep doing the eBay grind, to do it all at once instead of having to go back and forth from site to site. Unless it's like a high value item that you want to get out quickly, and you need to go on eBay right away. So I don't do too much eBay right now. The amount of time I spend, it'll range anywhere from like 3 hours a day to 12, 14 hours a day. It really depends on what you expect to get, how much you want to put into it. Like I said, I'm not aiming for 6 figures a year. I like living the way I live. I like living comfortable. I'm able to do everything I want to do. This past week, I've probably been only putting in like 4 or 5 hours a day. I realize with time that it's not about how many hours you put in. It's about like what you're doing with those hours. So instead of saying I'm going to work for 8 hours and getting maybe 3-4 hours of work done and getting distracted by Facebook and YouTube, I just grind hard for 5-6 hours, and I feel I get more done sometimes than I would in a normal 8-hour workday. But Chaz, there's never a stop to this work. You're working 24 hours sometimes. So, and like with me sourcing in garage sales, it's not really the past for me. Always working on like acquiring video games has not just been you go to a garage sale and you're going to get lucky at every sale. That's not how it works. I had to do research. So when I was exclusively doing video games only, most of my work was research, like multiple days of research before garage sale day, before the weekend, to find out where all the items I wanted were located. I didn't just go down the street, go to 3 garage sales and get lucky. I put the time in, I put the grind in to find out where I needed to go to acquire what I needed to acquire. So I don't know if I answered the question. I don't even remember what the question was there.
Oh yeah, you nailed it. You said about 4 to 5 hours a day. I love the fact that you mentioned the research part. So I know what you mean by research, but I'll have you touch base on that in a sec. So it reminds me of a quote that I once heard, and this was in the fitness coaching arena talking about supplementation. But this totally relates to this: is measure twice, cut once, right? So if the people who are going out and just trying to cut once are the ones who are just garage sale hopping, trying to get lucky. But if you measure twice by doing the research ahead of time, you only cut once and boom, you nailed it. It's like sharpshooting, right? So when you say research, do you have Craigslist that you're browsing? Do you have specific apps that you use? What do you mean by your research before a garage sale?
Up until this point, it's been mostly Craigslist.
Mm-hmm.
So living in Philadelphia, there'd be 300 sales each weekend. So I would go through and I would email every single person and ask every single person if they had video games and which video games they had. I'd find their addresses. I'd make a list for myself where I needed to go. I'd map out anybody's sale on a map who had video games. And then I would figure out my route from there. Sometimes you can't hit them all. Living in Philadelphia, I lived right outside the city where I could really go any direction I needed to. Some days I drive 200 miles in a day just to get to the sales I needed to get the items I needed to get to. So research was really just lots of Craigslist, lots of emails, and keeping up with it. So those were days where you work literally every waking minute. You're on your phone, you're trying to find where you're going. You stop to eat, maybe if you're lucky, use the restroom, maybe get some exercise in, and then it's back to work. So another thing, I probably should have mentioned this before, it was a failure of mine that I didn't bring up before, but I got very overwhelmed when video games started gaining popularity. It got very stressful to acquire them. So I was putting in all this time and all this effort. And to me, it just wasn't worth it. I kind of almost got to a point where I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. I took some time away from garage sales because I had so much inventory, like I said. But what I learned from this was that you just got to keep going. You got to keep pushing. You can have those times. Everybody's entitled to a time where you're going to, you almost feel like you're going to freak out or you're going to break down. You just got to take a step back, compose yourself, and you just keep pushing and you keep getting to where you need to get to. And it's proof positive with me because I found this group. I kept pushing, kept doing the research, found your video, found the group, and now I'm on to FBA and things couldn't be better for me. So I just did want to mention that little failure there because that is definitely a big tip. It seems very obvious, but you just keep pushing. Don't give up. Don't give in. Keep going.
Dude, love it. Love it. Last question we'll touch base on. If you guys had $5K to start, how would you get going? OA, RA. Personally, I want to get into OA and send to a prep company, but I wanted to know what you all think. I'm looking to quit my job like tomorrow. You want to hit on that one? If you had $5 grand right now and you started from bare bones basics, what would you be doing?
I don't know. That's tough for me because I don't have any other experience in I don't have experience with retail arbitrage or online arbitrage. I haven't really seen the potential there. I've kind of just been doing what I'm doing, and I can only really speak from my perspectives.
You'd be going to a lot of garage sales with $5 grand.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great, but I don't know if you could even spend $5 grand at a garage sale.
Yeah, that's tough. We went out this last week in our first ever. It's funny you mentioned garage sales. I didn't realize you were so into them. It's like I'm writing tips from you. So we went out and I've never done it before, right? It's like I do the RA and the OA and all that kind of stuff, and I'm used to investing, right? And so I told Trista, I'm like, pull $500 out and let's go garage selling. We had this huge neighborhood wide. They had 100 garage sales within walking distance. So we just parked. We had to make several trips back to the car to put stuff in. And so I pulled $500 out. We spent 120. That's it. So yeah, like you said,
yeah.
It's hard to spend that much at garage sales because you get killer deals.
It is hard.
Yeah, I know because I have had the experience with RA, OA pallets. Those have kind of been like my three things. And thrifting, I guess, thrifting to me is kind of like its own little category. It's a very special baby of mine that I cherish because Goodwill is how I got started. So if I had $5 grand and I started from scratch right now, knowing what I know, that's a tough one because my first thought is I would want to do a pallet to start with because it has potential to become a quick flip if you have the right outlets. But like I said before, I am in FBA only mode, so I don't want to touch a pallet right now. So with that being said, I personally would actually do the garage sale thing. After last weekend, after what Jesse's talked about, like garage sales, thrift stores, the typical clearance sections in RA, you have to be careful about, because if they're clearancing something out, it means that it's usually nationwide and there's probably going to be a price drop. You have to really make sure you're honing in on, I did this with these Xfinity games. Most people would tell me not to do it, but I did it because it was like 50 units that we picked up. They were $2 a piece. They're super, they're going to sell like the day they get there. They're super fast rank. That's the only time I'll do that type of deal, if it's a super fast, like out the door rank. So I wouldn't pour it all into one thing is what I would say. Like Jesse talked about earlier, have different outlets that you're trying. So I would take $5,000. First of all, you need your supplies, you need, your printer, your shipping labels, all that kind of stuff. But aside from that, I would kind of divide it up. I would go RA with some of it. I would definitely put a big chunk aside to do thrift stores, Goodwills, garage sales, just because of the ROI opportunity. ROI you cannot beat in garage sales and thrift stores. Cannot beat it. If you get into OA, you need to be ready for volume and to lower your standard as far as margins go. Like in my head from thrifting, I always want to double my money minimum. And that's after fees and shipping. So if I scan something and I can buy it for $10 after fees and shipping, I want $20 back minimum. That's my thrifting mindset. But when I got into RA and OA for the first time, all of a sudden I'm looking at stuff going 40% ROI. That's crap. Then I realized, oh wait, no, I can order multiple units. So it actually adds up if you're ready to do volume work. So I can't give you a specific answer like you need to do RA with $5,000, you need to do OA or pallets or whatever. For me, I would split it up. And from there, I would learn what I like best, what I enjoy, what I fall in love with. And that's what I would focus on moving deeper into the future with it. As far as quitting your job, I can tell you from experience, Jesse can tell you, he does this full time now. We both would probably mention the same thing. It's number one, if you plan on quitting your job to pursue any business, not just FBA, I'm in 2 other businesses as well, so it's same thing relates. You need to have a cash cushion or a savings to last you, especially with something like FBA. If you are spending the same $1,000 per month on inventory, you're going to keep getting the same return because you can't keep increasing your ROI on the same $1,000, right? You need to be ready to reinvest as much as you possibly can. I know Tristan and I, when I quit my job 3 years ago with another business that basically paid for me to come home. Amazon paid for Trista to come home. She quit her job 4 months ago. And there on month 2, we made $400 profit with FBA. It was the crappiest month we've ever heard. We had I think it must have been like $3,000 with refunds, returns. It was horrible. I got nailed that month. It wasn't because of anything in specific I did. It was just a crap month. You see their waves with returns. So we made like $400. And that was the same month that we both sat down and went, oh, crap. Should you go back to work or should I go back to work and bring in some extra income to pay the bills? But luckily, guess what? That lasted for a split second because I went, oh, wait, duh. We have this separate account that we created that has a cash cushion for these instances. It's called an emergency fund. So we had to pull some money out, pay the bills, and guess what? We're fine now. And that's all built back up and flourishing and whatever. So if you plan on quitting your job, the entrepreneur in me wants to say, like, go for it. But you have to be realistic and you have to be able to cover your bases, especially if you have a family. Do not put your family at risk of not being able to pay for a roof over your head or food if you want to quit your job and go full-time with something. It has to be a side hustle for a while, and you have to put every ounce of energy you have into it before it builds up enough cash that you can start taking a little bit of a cut out of that for personal use, pay your bills, whatever. That's my take on being able to quit your job. Have a cash cushion and just be ready for the long haul. Jesse, you probably have a few words to mention in there.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Chaz. It's really about what you're expecting to get back. How much money you want to make. Like like the question was, what would you do with $5,000? After hearing your answer, to me, it's like slow and steady. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not in it to spend $5,000 and then make 6 or 7 back. Some people might, that's what they're looking for. If you're looking to quit your job, like you said, it takes 1,000% effort from you. You can't kind of half-ass it. You really got to put the time, and it's got to be a full-time thing. So if you got $5,000, start as a side hustle, use the money to get what you need to get until you feel comfortable enough to quit. Yeah, I think it's really about what you, or whoever asked the question, what you're expecting out of it. If you're expecting to quit your job and with $5,000, and I don't know, I can't speak from that to flip it that quick. So to me, it's slow and steady. So it'd be a slow process to quit the job. Like for me, I came from nothing, so it was slow and steady building up. So that's what's worked for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I can tell you my experience, I was working, some of you probably don't know, I run 3 main businesses, but one of them was my trade. My very first career I chose was a massage therapist. I was working for a full-time spa, slaving away for 4 years. It took me a year and a half of building my health and fitness business online, a year and a half of the side hustle, a year and a half of putting in the late nights after a 10 to 12-hour day at work, which is why I can talk about it, because I've been there. I'm not there now because I busted my ass then. But because I put in that side hustle for so long, it took me a year and a half to take it from 0 to where it needed to match my paychecks. And I quit that job and went full-time for myself. So a year and a half time frame is what I went with. Some people, it's going to take 5 years. Some it's going to take a year. Everyone's in a different position. Everyone builds differently. And like Jessie mentioned, some people love to build slow dime. Other people like to do the fast nickel. This is why I hate it when people will bicker about the buy box versus the lowest FBA. Like, who cares? There's 2 different businesses you can run. You can do the fast and not get as much back, but you're going to have a really, really fast return. Or you can match the buy box and higher, and you can get a bigger pay cut. It might take a little bit longer. So anytime I see the arguing between that, guess what? Thread is deleted. I won't even tolerate that stuff. Like, you guys just try stuff out, right? Trial and error. Experience is going to be the best teacher you will ever have. No YouTube video, none of us, no big time seller can ever give you the information that you will learn for your business and your life based on experience. You have to go out and trial and error and go for it. That's all I got. Jessie?
No, you nailed it, Chaz. It's about trial and error and finding where you want to be. And like you said, people are going to aim for the stars. Like, you always shoot for the stars, your limit, but it's got to be yours. It can't be somebody else's. And I was really happy to be able to share my story with others, because I'm not the guy making 6 figures. You know, I'm not the guy worried about making 6 figures. I'm just a normal guy. I have a room that I sleep in. I have my office, and then I have my storage, and that's all I do. And I reinvest into my business every month, every day. And that's what it's about for me. So I get what I want out of life. I get to have the downtime to enjoy myself. So if you're looking for fancy cars and you know, a nice yacht, a nice vacation home, I'm not necessarily the guy to look to, but I'm a guy that's been around for a few years, and I don't necessarily know everything, but I know what I'm doing to live comfortably where I want to. And you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. You just have to set your goals, and you have to stay true to your goals. And through trial and error, you'll figure out what you want or how to achieve what you want. And don't look to somebody else's numbers or look to somebody else to solve your problems. You got to solve your own. You'll figure it out yourself. And it's great to take advice. This group is wonderful because it's taught me so much stuff that I would have taken me years to learn by myself. But what it really comes down to is putting in the work for you and seeing your own results.
100%. Jessie, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you coming on here, do a little Q&A session, sharing your story. It's just, it's awesome to see, you know, what he referred to himself, the regular dude, right? It's like, you're not regular though. You're an entrepreneur, which is very small percentage of those of us who actually do it, right? Everyone talks the talk. Everyone wants it. But for those who actually show up, not very many actually show up and put in the commitment, because commitment is where it's at. Dedication is where it's at. Motivation, doing it when you feel like it, that's a bunch of crap, right? Motivation is temporary. It's an emotion. It's like happiness and joy. It's all like hyped up, and then, oh, I don't feel like working today. I don't need to go out and source. I don't want to do this shipment. You guys think that I want to finish up this call? and go tackle that friggin' mess of garage sale and video games? No, I don't. I want to go drink a beer and have some chill time with some pizza. But damn it, I got goals. I'm going to go work. You guys have an awesome night. Peace out. This has been Coach Chaz, sidekick Jessie for the night.
Thanks for having me, Chaz.
For those of you YouTubers, if you want to join these live hangouts, we only post the link inside of our Facebook group. It's 100% free, always will be. You can check out the link below. Amazon, FBA, Rockstars. Hit us up. We'll see you next time. Have a great night, guys.